Why, hi there. How are you? I'm Ron Juckett. It's been too long since we've done this. And it's time once again for the DoDCast. Who's going, yep. They can't see you. There you go. Drew Douglas and I are with you for the first time in 2017, the first of what we probably, I think by the time that we're all done with this calendar year, will be the first of 200 shows, 162 games, and we're projecting with 0% of the vote counted that we'll see at least 3 playoff games come October. Anything else is beyond the powers that be. How are you, Drew?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, thanks. The weather finally broke here. We've had weeks of below zero weather. We really had the frozen tundra of Burlington, Vermont. And I guess are you guys getting snow? We're getting snow tomorrow night. We're supposed to get another 4 to 5 inches. We had a foot. It melted. We're going to get it back.
Yeah, it was mid-50s in the D.C. area here today. So it was a beautiful day here.
Drew was out in a Speedo. making his Edwin Jackson welcome back doll.
Yeah, of course. I guess you could say I'm happy to see him back.
I think it's one of those things that I'm not surprised that they brought him back, but I could see where a lot of people out there would be aggravated by the return of Edwin Jackson, especially the way that Jackson finished the end of the year. I guess on first blush, it tells me that they are not real content on either AJ Cole or Eric Fetty winning the job in spring training.
Yeah, I think at this point, you talked about their payroll issues a couple days ago. I think there's a good chance that they're going into spring training and just going to hold a competition. And I think personally, the front runner for me would be AJ Cole because he showed some strides last year, especially once he moved into the bullpen. So hopefully he can continue to build on that moving into 2018. But I just think with all these guys pretty much unproven, as many candidates as they could possibly have, the better, and hope just at least 1 or 2 of them can pan out and pitch decent out of the 5 spot, at least until they're able to maybe get another starter at the trade deadline to gear up for the postseason.
It's an open audition. And I think we knew that coming into the offseason, there would be pretty much an open audition. If you're not quite familiar with the payroll situation the Nats find themselves in, the short of it, without getting into microeconomics 101, is that the Nats are already over the payroll tax, the competitive balance tax. And they were considering that they were over it last year. They will now pay a 30% penalty for every $1 million that they're over. Although that we estimate their payroll to be under the tax at $176 million. They count the annual average value of a contract in that number. And so next year, Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg get massive raises. I believe Scherzer's salary goes to $42 million and Strasburg's salary goes to $38 million. But for accounting purposes, it's the same level every year. So the Nats are being penalized now for the pay raises that they give next year. And so at 30% for every million, they're already now 1.2 million over. And as they continue to escalate higher and higher payroll, then the surcharges become more and more. So if they violate it by $20 million, then it goes to a 50 million or 50% tax. And they just, that becomes impossible to sustain for a while, after a while. So I can understand that. Hi, Seth, how are you? Going back to why they're doing this, look, if this season goes the way that we expect it to go, there's not a lot of meaning coming up in the regular season. We're talking about a starting position that isn't going to earn a start in a playoff game if the rest of the rotation is healthy. Mm-hmm. So why not get someone like Edwin Jackson or Tommy Malone? I wrote about Clay Buchholz before. Or see what AJ Cole and Eric Fetty can do for you. Because really, it's just it's an open audition anyway. And if they're going to spend that money, spend it later when they know what they really need. Let's see. Happy New Year to you too, Seth. We'll talk about Arrieta in a minute. I'll let you respond to that, Drew.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, just going back to the rotation a little bit, I think between, like you said, the division really isn't in any place to compete with the Nationals, so they're all but guaranteed a postseason spot. I mean, that fifth spot, especially considering that the Nationals already have one of the best rotations in the league with the front four. I mean, I could go out there and take the fifth spot, and they really just need someone to eat innings, because if you're getting a guy like maybe Edwin Jackson, as we saw late in the year last year, and he was only going a couple innings every start, then you get a bit concerning, because the bullpen is going to have to overwork, and that can lead to issues down the road. But I think just whoever they pick, as long as they're able to go out and give the Nationals 5, 6, maybe even 7 innings in most starts, I think it would definitely be okay, regardless of who it is and if they win those games.
Now, if they want to go through, because Seth's got to go back to work in a sec, and get like actual like a 3-starter, they could. They could afford that, but they can't go 5, 6 years on a guy, which is what someone like Arrieta, what Scott Boras wants for Arrieta. If you're going to take the hit, at least then that eliminates everybody. It means you get Cole in the minors, you get Fetty in the minors, and you let Joe Ross heal at a normal pace. If money wasn't an issue, I think that's what they would do. But money is with an issue. This isn't like the closer situation to start last year. They're not stuck for that. Are these 4 names people that you really want to have? I mean, Tommy Malone, AJ Cole, Eric Fetty, and Edwin Jackson are not names that are going to be contending for a Cy Young. Okay? But they'll get you, hopefully, if you can find someone like the way Edwin Jackson pitched the first 6 weeks he was with Washington, you take that 9 times out of 8. You get someone that gets 6 innings to start. You can find any 5th starter who can throw 30 times and get you 180 innings. You're taking that and running. Even 160 innings out of a 5th starter is going to save that bullpen for when they need it. You look at some teams at the other end of the spectrum, like Colorado, who's assembled a super pen. That pen is going to get overworked because of the way the Coors Field is. Your starters just get chewed up, and then you need to get 4, 5, 6 innings a night out of your starters. Out of your relievers. And by the time that if the Rockies do make the playoffs, then you have a bullpen that's just beat to death. And
especially with Wade Davis, who I thought was overworked a bit, especially in that Game 5 against the Nationals in the postseason. I'll be interested to see how he reacts coming into next season, between the overuse last year and pitching in Colorado, which is a very difficult environment to pitch in.
I think the overall trend, and we did not see this past year, Drew, the Terry Francona saying if Andrew Miller to go out there and get you 4 outs in the 6th inning, 5 nights in a row. But you did not see starters stretch longer. And so in the postseason, especially teams who go into 3 long series in a row, you're not designed to work like that. There are not enough off days. Even with that extra day between Game 4 and Game 5 of the LDS, there are not enough off days to go through constant multiple inning jobs or to pitch in a World Series or a League Championship Series, where you have a case of there are 3 games in a row and you're going to pitch 4 innings in those 3 games. Modern relievers just can't take that kind of load.
Yeah, their arms they're not built up to be able to pitch that much, and just pitching is very taxing on arms, as we've seen with the rise in injuries, especially torn UCLs and Tommy John surgeries. And I think that trend, as we saw with the Indians, it did work. It got them to the World Series, but just not sustainable over 162 games.
Can't do it over 162 games. And I think it's one of the reasons why the Cubs struggled as much as they did against the Dodgers. You only have so many throws in your arm before your arm becomes rubber. The fact that we're starting preseason pretty much early, pitchers and catchers report the 14th. I believe we have meaningful spring training games as early as the 26th. And then we start the regular season on March 29th. Yes, there's a week longer to the regular season. We're going to have some more off days thrown in there. But between all the work that you get from February, by the time that you get into late October in the League Championship Series, for a reliever, your arm is toast. And you're not going to go. I've had this conversation with Al, Red Sox fan, before, and some of our older fans. The genie's not going back in the bottle. We're not going to be turning starters back into 8, 9 inning machines anymore. Go out there, give me 7, 8 innings, and then we can have one pitcher go for the rest of the game. Those days are long gone, because you are designed to throw 100 pitches. You give it 110% for those 100 pitches, and whether it's you do it over 5 innings or 7, that's it. And so I don't know what the happy medium is. I really think that baseball is missing something by not having a Swiss Army pitcher. You're someone who can give you long relief or give you an emergency start. Someone that anytime they go out there, whether they start a game or whether they come in the 3rd inning, they can get you 4 innings. Because if you're doing that, your chances of winning aren't good anyway. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's that. Now, they haven't really addressed the other perceived need, being catcher. It looks like Pedro Severino and Roddy Reed will get all the chances in the world to earn a spot on that bench. We've written about this somewhat. You did a slider on about the slider on the 5 possible catchers this year. What did you find? What did you learn when you wrote that piece?
I mean, I think I've been saying this for a while now. I think while it's not a popular option, the Pedro Severino and Roddy Reed competition is probably the most plausible option, just because the same thing with the 5th starter. The Nationals are all but guaranteed to go into the postseason and win this division. And so I think maybe you begin the year and you give Severino or Reed, who are big parts of the Nationals' future plans, you give them some major league experience, see how they handle it, and see if they can maybe develop a little more. And then if you're not happy with how it turns out, then go get a catcher from a team who maybe thought they could contend and find out otherwise, trade for that catcher at the deadline. And I think, yeah, really, as long as you go into the postseason and you're happy with your catching situation, that's the biggest thing. But the only bad part about going with Severino or Reed is maybe you can't give Wieters as many off days as you'd like. And the Nationals have said they don't want Wieters catching as many games as he did last year in an effort to increase his production in 2018.
Right. I mean, Wieters, the max I think he can catch is about 90 games. Roddy Reed, we talked about, his offense is fine, but his defense is not good. And so I would think that most of the bulk of that work would go to Severino, who hasn't really worked more than 100 games in a given year himself. I think I have to go back and look. He was injured part of last year. That's nothing. Too, you get banged up behind the plate. Severino has handled most of these guys before, and I think that the Nationals will give him every chance in the world to win this job. But again, that is someone you could pick up someone on the cheap in July at the trade deadline. I mean, there's also other free agents out there, but then again, most free agents are still out there. I find it kind of curious with Edwin Jackson returning today. The Nats started the postseason or the off season, one of those seasons, with 12 free agents. Only 4 have signed contracts anywhere. 3 of them have stayed. The only one to leave is Jose Lobaton. Now, you can't go to the stadium and audition to remove helmets and say, wow, okay, that's just not happening. Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious. And let's talk about some of the other news in the division. You have Jay Bruce go back to the Mets on a 3-year, $39 million deal. I'm kind of surprised at that. I honestly thought the Mets were going to snag Adam Lind.
Yeah, I thought they were too. And I think just with Bruce, we saw it with the Mets last year where they just had so many corner outfielders and they didn't really have any solid center fielder. And I thought maybe they'd try to get a center fielder this year, but it appears they're just going to go with the same corner outfielders. So I'll be interested to see how that works out for them. And maybe with some more health, they could play a little bit better than they did last year, but I just don't really see it with them.
They've treated their starters so badly. You kind of have to wonder what is left for Matt Harvey. And after Noah Syndergaard's injuries last year, you kind of have to wonder if those will start to crop up again. DeGrom is lovely, but beyond that, Steven Matz is I don't believe in his short tenure has been healthy for all 33 starts. And as you said, they have a lot of infield questions and outfield questions and catching questions. Which is, there's a reason why Fangraphs has them maybe around 500, and usually they're very conservative with their projections, but they project the Nats to win the division by 11 games. Our Brian Foley will have a piece on, potential Cinderellas in the National League East on Monday for a slideshow that he's working on. I'm not seeing enough difference in the Braves for them to contend. We know Miami's in the midst of a public relations disaster and a fire sale. I mean, Starlin Castro has already said he hasn't even taken an at bat for the team yet and says he wants off the team. Who do you think is going to give Washington the biggest challenge in 2018?
I don't really see anyone giving them a challenge, but I think if a team were to give them a challenge, it would definitely be the Phillies. I like what they've done where they got Carlos Santana. He's solid bat, and I think he'll be great, especially in that hitter's ballpark in Citizens Bank Park. But I don't know. I think they think they're a little better than I think they are because, signing Santana kind of signals that they believe they're a little bit ahead of their rebuild. I like their new manager and Kapler. I think they're moving in the right direction, but they're not quite ready to kind of compete with the Nats just yet.
Gabe will have them ready to go. I interviewed him for another podcast a while ago, a few years ago. I believe he was a minor league instructor for the Dodgers at that point or doing something with them. And after a 20-minute conversation with him, you were ready to go jump through walls. Right? So they will be ready. You feature Aaron Nola once every 5 days, you're going to be just fine. Plus, the Phillies have a tremendous amount of money to spend in this upcoming massive free agent market. So if they can show someone like a Manny Machado that they can contend, that they have the pitching pieces to possibly contend, they have the money to pull that off. It's one of the reasons why I put the Phillies as a wild card contender for Bryce Harper. They will be able to afford anybody on the market. And so I'm not sold the Braves are any better. Maybe it's silly for us to discount the Mets, the best laid plans of mice and men. But I would agree with you. I think the Phillies are the ultimate wild card. And look, you only need to win 84 games really to contend for that second wild card spot. I don't see San Francisco doing that. I think the top teams in the National League Central are going to be too busy beating each other up. And so, I could see them at least backdooring their way into at least contending for a playoff spot come September.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of good young talent. They got Rhys Hoskins, Odubel Herrera. Michael Franco is coming off of a down year, but we've seen him play pretty well in the past. And then I like what they're doing with their bullpen, too, where they have Hector Neris. He's been there, but now they brought back Pat Neshek. They signed Tommy Hunter. So, I mean, I think maybe we could see them have a similar season to what we saw from Milwaukee and Minnesota last year.
Speaking of people that were signed for audition, we didn't kind of touch it. We talked about Edward Jackson. We haven't talked about Tommy Malone. Was a pitcher who worked with Derek Lilliquist in the past. I think. What's the expectation? Does he have a realistic chance of making this team, or are the new owners in Syracuse going to get to watch him for a year?
Yeah, I think he was mostly just signed as depth. I don't really see him winning that job. We saw he was one of the Nationals' top pitching prospects. He came up and I think he peaked in his first at bat. As funny as that is, he in his at bat as a pitcher, but he hit a home run on the first pitch he saw, and then the Nationals traded him to Oakland in that Gio Gonzalez trade. But really, he hasn't fulfilled the potential that the Nationals believed he had. And his most recent major league experience was with the Mets last year, and he just got lit up and eventually got sent back down to the minors. So I think he's mostly depth, but I mean, maybe working with Lilliquist, he could improve and kind of tap into that potential and maybe surprise us, make the Billy rotation at spring training.
His pitching style is a pitch to contact pitcher, which kind of goes against the grain of what a successful pitcher will do in the latter part of this decade. I think it's too much contact, and that can come back to hurt you. He gave up a ton of home runs. He pitched for the Brewers last year too, who could use all the pitching they could get as they battled the Cubs for the entire year. If you couldn't keep on that Brewers roster, that says a lot about where your skills are. I think it's a good depth piece, as you said, but boy, you're taking a flyer. You're not losing anything if he doesn't make it. But in modern National League Baseball, it's such a power game now that he just catch too much of the plate and balls go bye-bye. Let's see. What else? What should we expect between now and the next month? Most of the free agents still remain unsigned. We pretty much agreed that there are no big names coming to DC. Although Chelsea James did write a piece for the Washington Post a couple of weeks or sometime in the last 10 days, saying that don't be surprised if there's a Scott Boras client that gets paid a lot of money to come. Kind of like the Matt Weeder signing from last year. Do you think now, knowing what the Nats face, that that's realistic, or are they just going to say, look, we really can't?
Yeah, I think if they sign anyone, it would probably be just fill out the bench and then maybe some more minor league invites just to possibly see if someone could pan out, as we saw with Matt Albers last year. But I don't really see them signing any of the big name free agents like the JD Martinez's or Lance Lynn or Jake Arrieta, those types.
The latest on JD Martinez says he really wants to hold out for 6 years, and the Red Sox don't want to give him that. There really is just not a lot of market for power hitters. I mean, Bruce, I thought, got decent money from the Mets. What did Santana get from the Phillies?
He got 3 years, $60 million.
So that, so there is some market there, but really, it's all about the starting pitching, and even that hasn't even settled out yet. I mean, once it comes, it's going to be a fast and furious week, I imagine, because once one domino falls, they're all going to fall. And today's the 11th. You only have a month and 3 days before people need to report to camps.
Yeah, I think I wrote about it today. I think maybe we see some of these guys start taking pillow contracts and just take 1 year, get decent money, and try free agency again next offseason. Because, I mean, like you said, pitchers and catchers are reporting in barely over a month, and these guys are still searching for homes. So I don't know. If I was a free agent, I would probably be getting pretty antsy right about now.
Yeah, I mean, last year we saw this too. I mean, look at the money that goes into relievers. And that kind of leaves a lack of money for hitters. But they're taking a huge chance that they're doing that with the pillow contracts because of the potential free agent market next year. Machado, Harper, Kershaw can opt out.
Donaldson.
Yeah, Josh Donaldson, all those names. I mean, there is an advantage of being a big fish in a small pond like this year, because next year it's the veritable Pacific. And who knows? Who knows? All right. I'm not going to say that we're going to be back weekly at this point, but we're coming vast to the point where we'll need to, because it's coming back, folks. The season's coming back. But for now, I guess it'll be 2 weeks from now, which would be around the 25th, unless something else happens, and we'll be there sooner. And I think that might be the last bi-weekly show, because it'll be here before you know it. Pitchers and catchers, and maybe they'll do something about the winds in West Palm Beach. We're used to infield shifts. Maybe we'll see all three of the outfielders in right field. So when that ball hooks from the left field foul line all the way into right center, someone can catch it.
Yeah, especially with these some of these minor league outfielders who aren't as experienced and aren't as capable of gauging those winds. It can definitely get interesting out there.
I don't. Of course, I didn't cover the team when it was in Jupiter, but I don't remember a spring training site where the wind really affected things as much as what happened last year in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, I remember in Jupiter we saw some of the balls would get blown out for home runs, and it would help the hitters in that aspect. But I don't remember, yeah, the balls just tailing as much as they do in West Palm Beach.
Well, now we'll know because it'll be year 2. And if you're a fan of Jupiter and West Palm Beach, we have 21 dates between the St. Louis Cardinals, the Houston Astros, and the Miami Marlins. Please bring your Salmonex. You don't need Salmonex. Please bring your 5-hour energy drink so you can enjoy the preseason. They go to Lakeland, I think, and play Detroit and Atlanta once.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of an occasional trip to Port St. Lucie to play the Mets, be a long year. So the one person that stuck with us and watched the entire time, we thank you. You're watching us later on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at District on Deck, Facebook District on Deck. The website itself is districtondeck.com, and you can follow Drew at
Drew RD98.
And you can follow me at Ron Juckett, RonJuckett. And unless we need to talk to you before then, we will talk to you in a couple weeks. It helps if I get the right screen up. There we go. All right. We'll talk to you the next time. Have a good night.